Hi, my name is Cath. I'm the Sparkspace librarian at the headquarters library in Spartanburg. Today I'm going to be book talking South to Freedom, Runaway Slaves to Mexico, and The Road to the Civil War by Alice L. Baumgartner. This is a nonfiction book that I chose specifically to highlight true black stories. Tells the stories of black slaves who ran away to Mexico to escape from slavery. And it talks a little bit about the kind of history of slavery and property and how that came about in the Americas. But the bulk of the story is about how slaves, instead of running away what we would think of the Northern Railroad, this is about slaves who were in Louisiana and Texas and how they went to Mexico to become free people. And at the time, Mexico was accepting of these slaves because Mexico had just been trying to emancipate themselves from Spain, and they were not allowing themselves to be recolonized. And they saw colonialism as basically slavery to them. So they took in slaves, and whenever people would come to try and get their slaves back from Mexico, they basically said, no, they're free here. We're our own people and you can't have them back and we're not going to give them to you. It was really interesting. Going into it, I had never heard of any slaves going to Mexico to try and be free people. And so it was really interesting. It's very slow paced because it is nonfiction, so it is a little bit, times a little bit heavy, but it follows different people as they go to Mexico and just tells stories of different people in ways they were able to get to Mexico and how they were able to stay there and start a new life. And so it's told in 12 different parts. Each part focuses on something like citizenship, the war, and like all the things that were leading up to the start of the Civil War based on things like freed blacks being in Mexico and how they're like, we don't want them to be there, we want them to come back. And so it has a large appendix in the back with all kinds of notes about each chapter, as well as a really interesting index of work and different people and different things that were happening at the time to kind of like, well, if slaves are going this in, Mexico, what were slaves in South Carolina doing and stuff. So that's really interesting. Lots of names of people who helped out in trying to get slavery nullified in Mexico, and was overall a super interesting book, and I think everyone should definitely read it. But again, it's called South to Freedom, Runaway Slaves to Mexico and the Road to the Civil War by Alice L. Baumgartner. I highly recommend it. Thanks.